Chalamet fans, rejoice! You don't just get Dune this week, you also get The French Dispatch. And then film lovers rejoice, because we're getting a brand new Denis Villeneuve film and a brand new Wes Anderson movie this week. We're seriously swimming in gold. What's going on, buddy? Welcome back to a brand new movie review. Today we're going to be discussing The French Dispatch. This is, of course, a love letter to journalists set in an outpost of an American newspaper in a fictional 20th century French city that brings to life a collection of stories published in the French Dispatch magazine. Written and directed by Wes Anderson and as well starring so many people: Benicio del Toro, Tilda Swinton, Timothée Chalamet, Frances McDormand, Adrien Brody, Bill Murray, Jeffrey Wright. I mean, seriously, the cast goes on and on and on from there. This is probably one of the biggest casts that Wes Anderson has ever put together. And if you've seen his other movies, I mean, the guy has already put such talented casts together. I mean, Here and To Stay is such a special story, and it's one that absolutely surprised me in a lot of ways, because if you don't know me, I'm not a big fan of when stories are told in an anthology way, and French Dispatch is very much an anthology story, 3 particular stories told throughout this newspaper, and I didn't know how I was going to feel about it, but I really enjoyed this one, and I think Wes Anderson fans are in for a delightful treat here. Of course, if you guys are new here and you love talking movies, then you are in the right place. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button so we can continue talking movies over here on a daily basis, as well as make sure to comment down below and let me know your guys' thoughts on The French Dispatch. And look forward, since this is Wes Anderson's 10th film, I'll be ranking every single one of his films later this week, and I hope to have you there. As well as a big thank you to the sponsor of this video, the Scottsdale International Film Festival. If you're in the Arizona area, lots of great films are heading there, and I hope to see you there. Continuing on with my review, starting with the pros, one of the things that every single time I see a Wes Anderson movie, it seems like he just gets better and better at this. This is easily probably his best directed film yet from a technical aspect of it all. Whether it's going down to the production design, the set design, the cinematography, all that sorts of things, what Wes Anderson was able to craft here was, again, probably his most Wes Anderson film yet, for good and bad reason. But for here on a technical level, it is immaculate what he was able to bring to the screen here. I really adore Wes Anderson's style and the way that he's able to frame most of his shots. In each film that he's very much progressed in continuing this style and perfecting it, but this might be his best. I never thought anything would ever beat the Grand Budapest Hotel, but The French Dispatch might again be the best one yet. Whether it's where the characters are standing, where the actors might be going, and where their performances lead in, to where certain little subtle details within the set designs that are led out is just so beautiful and, again, immaculate. And one of the big things is each story is told in a unique perspective and style. There's in fact one story in here that has animation to it, and I want Wes Anderson to do an animated film like that. I know we've gotten like Fantastic Mr. Fox and whatnot, but I want something more in that vein, and I thought it was just stunning and different and unique to Wes Anderson himself. In general, all fitting around to the storytelling perspectives and never feeling like it was style over substance. It matches the substance told here and keeps you engaged. One thing that a lot of us creators on YouTube and just in general storytellers understand is that you want that retention rate. And there's something about this Wes Anderson movie that even if a story is not working, it's hard to take your eyes off the screen and hard to not pay attention because of what is going on in the way that he's able to frame every shot. Again, this is a love letter to journalists. This is a love letter to artists of all kinds, whether you're a storyteller, a painter, a cook, all of your sorts of pieces that maybe are a piece of art to someone. This is a love letter from them. Wes Anderson is able to craft that, and you can truly feel the passion between this movie and the way that he was really able to engage in this all, and it was quite impressive to see how he was able to bring that to life. I felt seen, and I feel like many other people are also going to feel seen in this. I feel like when we got a lot of movies like this, and whether it's about artists or journalists, and you know, they say it's a love letter, sometimes it feels like a slap in the face to us, but you do see the dedicated hard work of many people in this. Speaking about dedicated hard work, the performances, I mean, every person brings their A game in here, but some of the major standouts, and like I said, anthology stories. So some stories are going to work better for others. Personally, for me, I love the Benicio del Toro one, which is actually the first one about a painter in a prison. And I found that one to just be the most intriguing, especially with the performances between him and Léa Seydoux, which probably pronounced that wrong. Once again, terrible with names, but both of them really worked in there. Adrien Brody's also great in there. Really adored that. Tilda Swinton, phenomenal. But going in here, every performance is great. Timothée Chalamet continues again his stride, and like I said in my Dune review, this kid is the next either Leonardo DiCaprio or Daniel Day-Lewis, who are two of the greatest actors of all time. Timothée Chalamet will one day be there, but his performance in here, again, is diverse. It's different than something we've seen from him before, and I loved it. But flat out, one of the other big standouts of this is Jeffrey Wright, who can do no wrong. I loved Wright in here. He is the main character of the third and final story of this entire French Dispatch. And it was, again, while probably my least favorite story, was the one that I was so into because of the way that Wes Anderson was able to develop it. It just, again, goes down to his writing, his directing, all sorts of things like that. So impressive. But again, even though the movie did surprise me on an anthology level, I still found my same issues when it comes down to anthology movies, and this is where we kind of dive into my cons. I understand the whole concept of this is not to be attached to characters, and it's just to tell stories, but for me, that's the one thing that I do love about Wes Anderson movies, is that I do get attached to almost a certain character, and I felt seen in a couple different characters, and then you go to the next story and you're like, oh, okay. And, you know, for me, I really needed that. I wanted some through line. And while there is a through line, there's not enough of it in perhaps. And the other thing I do want to say is that I do find the film to be a little bit too long. Each story probably could have been cut up by at least 2 to 3 minutes. They're not totally long, but when you add it all together and you add the runtime up, it does feel that pacing towards the end. And I feel like if this movie was around the hour and 35 minute or maybe even hour and 30 minute mark, you take 10 minutes out of the movie, it would have been perfect. And I wouldn't have even had the con of being emotionally attached or in general just attached to a character, because then that length would have gone away, and I feel like it would have really much fleshed out some of these stories. French Dispatch was an absolute delight in every sense of the way. I typically do not like anthology stories all too much, but this one surprised me. Anderson developed 3 interesting and well-polished stories that, yeah, you're gonna like one more than the other most likely, but they brought about a unique feeling that only comes from his films. It really did feel like 3 short stories that he wanted to develop, bring together, and he thought, how can I do this in the same way of honoring all the journalists and artists out there? And the French Dispatch was in the best way that he possibly could. It's probably the most Wes Anderson movie yet, from the tone, the style, the humor, which is absolutely on point and hilarious, and the fantastic performances. Thoroughly enjoyed the French Dispatch. It surprised me in a lot of different ways, and while it's not perfect, it is easily a great Wes Anderson movie. So with all that said, I'm going to give the French Dispatch a B+. Thank you once again, guys, for watching this. I actually do see this rating going up the more and more that I fall into watching the French Dispatch. But again, guys, look forward to that ranking of all 10 Wes Anderson movies coming later this week. It'll be a fun one at that. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Head on over to Sandwich on Films on how to see films early. And of course, it's a big thank you to you and a big thank you to my Patreon supporters, because without you, I would not be able to do this. Big thank you as well to the sponsor of this video, the Scottsdale International Film Festival. Get your tickets now. And of course, until next time, stay classy.